my worth is not defined by your critique.
I feel like a lot of people forget that pastors are human.
Right.
You aren't God, you know what I'm saying?
Right. We decided a long time ago that the very best gift that we could ever give our kids is not things, it's not anything like that. It's a great marriage.
I guess my first question to you would be, are you a boomer?
I'm not a boomer, I'm a Gen X. Come on, man. Okay. My mom, driving down the road, slams into a semi. I didn't really grow up a Christian. I always say I had a drug problem that started when I was born. My parents drugged me to church. Right? The picture we try and paint of Christ over here that's like perfect and your life is great. You'll never have any problems. That's not right. Ministry is hard. And Pascagoula is in a very interesting place.
Why do you think tithing is important?
That is an awesome question.
Okay. For those who don't know Mr. Matt Mitchell, who is Mr. Matt Mitchell? What do you feel could help the disconnect between the youth and the church? Well, hello. Welcome back to my podcast. This is episode 2 of Sit Downs with Markel Williams, featuring Matthew Mitchell, Mr. Matt Mitchell. And this episode specifically was shot in August of 2025. So it's a little dated, but I wanted to set the tone of the entire season with a prayer and with a man of God, because I wanted to become more of a man of God. And I don't know, this episode touched me a lot, and I would be doing Mr. Matt a disservice if I didn't introduce him properly. So he is the myth, he is the legend, and he is one of those guys that I truly look up to. He is the lead pastor of First Presbyterian Church in Pascagoula, Mississippi. And he is the husband of Amy Mitchell. He is the father of Lorelai, Gracie, and Will Mitchell. I'm glad that you decided to click and watch this episode. This episode will truly be touching to the heart for those who, have strayed away from the cross. And although my content is not heavily Christian based, I am still a Christian, and I truly believe that, every relationship with God is different. And one day, if I can, help someone come to Jesus, I would love to do that. But, I'm not going to push it down anyone's throat, because I know I wouldn't personally want that, So this episode isn't all about, going to church and, being a God lover. And so I hope you enjoyed the episode. Definitely like, comment, and subscribe. Share in the comments what you liked most about this episode once you watch. And thank you. All right, we're on.
Here we go.
We're doing this, actually. But thank you for sitting with me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sitting down with Markel Williams.
That's right.
How are you?
I'm good, man.
That's good. My intentions for to sit down, like the podcast, eventually when it gets bigger and bigger, is I want to tell people stories, 1. 2, I want to figure out how did these successful people like yourself. I mean, you have a happy family. You have you're passionate about your job. Slash, it's sometimes it maybe don't even feel like a job to you.
Right.
And it's just I'm young. I'm trying to figure out what's my story? What's my story gonna be?
Right.
And I'm not trying to think too much into it, but I'm trying to learn as much as I can. Because to be honest, college hasn't taught me much about my job, and this is me being more hands-on with it.
Right.
But that's I just want to set the intentions for the podcast, for the interview first before we even go deeper into it. And then I guess my first question to you would be, why did you say yes to sitting with me?
Well,
besides that you love me.
I was going to say, obviously it's because I love Markel, and he's been a part of our family for a long time.
I'm on the fridge.
You're on the fridge. We have one person on the fridge that's not family, and it's you. So you're family.
I love it. All right. So for those who don't know Mr. Matt Mitchell, who is Mr. Matt Mitchell?
Well, I guess I could break my life down to say I'm a husband,
okay,
I'm a father, and I'm a pastor, and I put them in that order for a reason. I'm a husband first. I've been married for 27 years.
We love Miss Amy.
Miss Amy's the best. Yeah, anyone that'll put up with me for 27 years. But so I'm a husband first, and I always say that more than I am even a parent, because we decided a long time ago that the very best gift that we could ever give our kids is not things, it's not anything like that. It's a great marriage. So at the end of the day, no matter what, my kids can walk away saying, they may not have taught me much, but they taught me what a good marriage looks like. So I'm a husband first, and then I'm a father, and obviously all that entails with one kid out of college, two kids kind of in college, and all that means. And then I'm a pastor last, but everything I am as a pastor is informed by who I am as a husband, who I am as a dad, and then, of course, my calling.
I love it. And what made you step into you being a pastor? Like, what was like your moment that was like, okay, it's time for me to be a pastor? It's like, it's time for me to like embrace what God has planned for your life.
Well, I didn't really grow up a Christian.
Yeah.
I grew up in the church. I always say I had a drug problem that started when I was born. My parents drugged me to church. So I was in church literally my whole life, but it never had any bearing or impact on my life. I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
So then I went to college and kind of, I started doing drugs and alcohol in high school, carried it into college. And it wasn't until my third year of school that it's always about a girl. I met a girl and wanted to take her out. She said, well, you have to go to church with me. I was like,
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I was, went to church and we went out, and then wanted to ask her out, and she took me. So after a couple times, the youth pastor at that church came up and said, hey, I'm doing a ski trip. I've seen y'all in church. Would y'all want to help out? I was like, I don't know much about church, but I know I'd like to go skiing. So I went skiing, and I got saved on that trip.
Right.
While all those kids were there, I got saved. But I was going to be an occupational therapist. I was in OT school, and I started helping out with the youth. And man, it was crazy watching that transition go from what I thought I was going to be, which was an occupational therapist. And but my passion was ministry and hanging out with all these youth kids, and just kind of more and more I did it, the more I realized this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
So I was in this crisis of, I'm in school for one thing, but I want to do another. And then kind of one day I was getting married, or I think we were already married, and Amy, my wife, looked at me and said, you just got to do ministry.
Yeah.
And so it was as much as me feeling the call as it was probably God releasing her to say, you can do this.
Yeah.
Because it's a big calling to step into, not just be a pastor, but be a pastor's wife. And so I think when God kind of opened her heart to it, it opened mine.
So like, how long have you been doing it?
I started doing youth ministry in 97.
Oh, okay.
And then I did that for 7 years. Then I went to seminary, which was 3 years up in New Jersey, and came back to another church and was associate. And I've been here in Pascagoula for 14.
Okay. And what's been like your proudest moment as a pastor?
So I think anytime, we see people that are in the church that are just kind of, involved in the church, but
not really doing
maybe
too
not
much.
doing too much.
Yeah.
And so there was a group of guys that I started meeting with, doing Bible study with, and all of them were, coming, involved to that degree. But of those 6 or 7 guys that started that, over the next probably 4 years, all of them stepped into leadership in the church. I mean, took on a big role, being
So like
elders and deacons, and just to see that process of guys, kind of owning their faith and getting serious about their life in the church and what it looks like, that was amazing.
That's beautiful. I've always thought, like, when they're walking and like being ushers, like their stories are probably more powerful than like a lot of stories like that call them to do that. Like, not just doing it like to get seen in the church that they're doing great things. Like, they actually have a reason behind like what they're doing and like why they're doing it. So I think
Absolutely.
that's important.
When you think about it, the church is outside of the paid staff.
Yeah.
It's 100% volunteer organization, and so you're asking people to to lead and to put in time and effort and energy and all these things that, there's not a one for, it's not transactional. They're not just getting something back. They're giving and giving and giving and giving.
Yeah.
And that's a big ask. And yet, watching all these guys just embrace what it means to serve the church and love people and do all those things.
And it's building the church even bigger than what
absolutely.
it should be and
Yeah.
can be. All right. So what practices and like things that make Mr. Matt Mitchell, like what helps you not burn out, and like what helps you continue being driven into like ministry and your faith?
Okay. Ministry is hard. And it's hard in from the time it takes. There's a lot of time spent in the church, outside the church, all those things. They always say we're always on 24/7, which is kind of true, kind of not. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's hard, and so having things to do that kind of pull you away are important. And so the things I do, like I love to play golf a lot.
Yeah.
We love to go out to the islands on the weekends whenever we can, and do all the things that everyone loves to do around here. We love to do them, and everyone in my church knows I play as hard as I work.
Yeah.
We have as much fun as we do. But the other part of that is, I do that a lot with the people in my church. I heard, one pastor say, you can't really have friends in the church, which what a sad commentary, right? If this is the family, if this is the fellowship that God has given us. And so, like my best friends are in the church. My best friends are around here. We hang out, we play. When I have meetings with people, we meet at restaurants or bars or, just out and about. Yeah. So I don't get locked into the church all the time being here. I get out, and the more I get out, the better it is for my headspace. Like I feel a bad day is when I'm in the office for 8 hours.
I feel like a lot of people forget that pastors are human.
Right.
At the end of the day, like you make mistakes, like you aren't perfect, like you aren't God. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I feel like even especially coming from a youth standpoint, I think that's where a lot of the youth have taken like the disconnection from them coming to the church, and like they see how other people treat, like they uphold this one person, like the pastor, above all people, and it's like it shouldn't be like that.
Right.
So like what do you feel could help the disconnect between the youth and the church? Because like do you see the disconnect between the youth
absolutely,
and the church?
There's no question.
Yeah.
And so that's a big answer. If you give me a second to kind of unpack that.
Yeah. It was a loaded question.
Well, and there's so much to it. There's the Barna Research Group, who does all the research for the church and things of Christianity.
Yeah.
They about probably 5 or more years ago, they did a survey that was piggybacking on a survey from 50 years ago. So 50 years ago, they asked kids, what are the 3 biggest influences in your life? And it was parents.
I wanted to answer that. So what are my?
What did you think they were?
Okay, my 3 biggest influences right now, and I'm not proud of them, but would be my well, I'm proud of 2 of them. My family, I would say my motivation and my passion to be better than like what I've ever been before, and then social media.
Okay. Yes. So 50 years ago, it was parents, teachers, pastors. They ran that same survey 5 years ago, and it was friends, social media, teachers. So pastors had fallen completely off the list. Yeah. So, but I think it speaks to a time when, so much of culture was built around the church. And so there was kind of this sense in which the church and the pastor or whatever was kind of this elevated role.
Yeah.
Good or bad, probably bad. But, so then they're put on this pedestal. Well, when you, as with anybody, when they make a mistake, and I don't even mean like fall, like have a big, moral failure, but just, when you find out, when you peer behind the curtain and you realize they're a real person, well, if you've held them up on this pedestal for so long,
it's like disappointing.
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
And so I think as probably the whole role of the church has shifted in the life of students mostly, but of culture in general, that the role of the pastor, golly, and it's different here in the South, still in the South, kind of the role of pastor is It's a big deal.
It's huge.
You know, I mean, it's a big deal. But up north, I mean, when I was in New Jersey for 3 years, I mean, you'd say I go to church, and I mean, it was like, why? Oh, is that what that building is? Like, they didn't even know, right? So, I mean, it has shifted dramatically, and you know, I think that's a big part of the disconnect.
Yeah,
is that.
I don't know. I just want to figure out like what is another way, like even me, like being able to talk to thousands on like social media and TikTok and stuff like that, because that's what I genuinely want to do. Like I just want to figure out like how to incorporate that into everything that I do, and maybe not even everything that I do, but like parts of it.
Right.
And it's like if you like slightly, I feel like push it, like not even push like a agenda, but just like putting it in front of their face rather than like pushing everything else. Like you don't need to go to college, you don't need to go to church, you don't need to, you know, like just slightly like it's a good thing that you go, but if you don't go, if you're not ready yet, you don't have to go yet. But like one day, maybe consider it, you know, bring a friend,
Yeah. So going back to our cultural shift, because I think that kind of dictates a lot of that whole conversation. The example I've been using in my head lately is that the cultural shift in the church is the inverse of the cultural shift of the seatbelt.
Okay.
Now let me explain.
Yeah, because I'm like, what?
So when I was a kid, like a baby, my mom driving down the road slams into a semi.
Like serious?
Serious, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not kidding. Yeah, slams into a semi.
Okay.
And I was in a baby seat, but not buckled into the baby. No, the baby seat was buckled in, but she had just put me out.
Yeah.
And you know, the only thing that stopped me from going through the windshield was Mama's strong arm. So Mom catches me. And then, you know, back then you had a lap belt maybe, or so then, but then it started being legislated, like, hey, you need to wear a seatbelt, and the education came.
It got
through.
more serious.
So, if you think about it, your generation is the first generation that did not grow up having it be optional. Like you get in the car and you just buckle up because you've always done it.
Right.
Like you never knew a time when you didn't wear a seatbelt. There are still times when I get in where I have to think about it because, I mean, part of my life, it just wasn't a big deal. We had them. So now this whole generation of kids that grew up has never not known wearing a seatbelt. So the inverse of that has been the church. There was a time where, and like my parents, and really me to some degree, but my parents never knew a time when church wasn't a big part of their life, their social structure. You know, cities were built around the church. You know, your calendar kind of went around the church, right? When your coach had baseball practice, it was like he knew Wednesday nights were off.
Yeah.
He knew Sunday after, you know, it had to be Sunday afternoon if you had practice at all on Sunday.
Because it was just tradition. Like,
it was tradition.
What happened.
It was done. It was done. So, you know, that generation grew up with church on the mind at least. Now, they may not have been active. They may not have done it. But they always knew what to come back to, right? So they might go to college. And we still see it now where, you know, someone gets married, they start to have kids, they start coming back to church. Because that's what they knew. Well,
and that's what they want to raise their kids at.
They want to raise their kids in
the church.
Your generation and the generation kind of after them, I don't think you're millennial, right? You're like Gen Z or...
Yeah, I'm Gen Z.
Yeah. So Gen Z or
what
whatever.
Are you? Do you know who you are? Are you a boomer?
I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen X. Come on, man.
Okay. Are you?
This interview's over. I'm a
I had
Gen
to throw
X.
that in there.
So your generation, millennials, Gen Z, really Gen Z and probably whatever's after that. I'm not sure what the next one is. But like they're that first generation that their parents didn't go to church. So they didn't go to church. So it's not like they have that touchstone to come back to say, you know what, I'm struggling and this is hard. I should go to church. They're not they're not thinking that anymore. And so it's all changed.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we talk about what the job of the, you know, what's the role of the church, man. That's all changed too, because it used to be a church could just throw open the doors and say, come on.
Yeah.
That's not, we throw open the doors and people are like, what's that? What are y'all doing in there? That's weird.
All right. My next question would be like, how do you handle criticism in your role as a pastor? Like, because like that's also another thing that I personally battle with, because I tried to base a lot of the questions that I'm going to ask you today off like things that I genuinely want to go back and watch, because like I know I'm currently like just in the moment trying to get the, like, I think I battle with me trying to be so not perfect, but like I don't want to mess up.
Sure.
Because like the moment I mess up, it's getting blasted in the comments, it's getting blasted over social media. I'm getting told by people that I haven't talked to in years, like, oh, you did this thing that's bad, but like they won't ever mention the like
right
20, 30
sure.
good things that I've done,
yeah,
you know? So like the moment I do something bad,
one bad thing.
I'm getting reported, I'm getting calls from my grandmother like, hey, why did blah, 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 X, Y, and Z, you know, tell me that you were doing this. So it's just like, how do you deal with criticism as a pastor?
First off, if you're going to be a pastor, you have to have thick skin.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you know, we have 400 members or so, and kind of I'm always laughing about saying, well, I've got to make 201 of them happy. And then I feel like you know, I might not get fired. But that also means 199 of them I've made mad for some reason. That's not always true. But, you know, I mean, I think too, and I don't want to keep saying, you know, the younger generation, because our generation is just as susceptible to the social media.
Yeah.
We just have someone to, like, we put it off and say, oh, those kids. But, I mean,
you do scroll
people
on TikTok.
my age, you know, they read all the comments. You know, you read and you get blown up, and you just, it's the worst thing ever. I think the difference, of course, is that social media just, it just continues to, it just feeds a narrative, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that narrative might be. And which is probably means you have to have thicker skin now
than what you used to
than
have.
you used to have. Because if you heard about it, it would be weeks or, you know, days or weeks later. And so yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, my heart breaks for younger kids and younger folks maybe in ministry that have grown up in this culture that is, you know, it's this constant critique and everything is online, everything is out there. Yeah. I mean, you know, I always say I wouldn't be a pastor. I couldn't be a pastor now if my past was on social media. Yeah. And so I don't have to deal with a lot of the criticism or the critiques. You know, I also don't have to worry about those things. I mean, people know about them, but they're not going to come up, you know, whereas now, if you say something now, 20 years from now,
it's recorded.
You go get a job and someone's like, 20 years ago, you said this. You know, I think we had the freedom to mess up and learn and grow from that without it having to be the whole world's business. And y'all don't have that luxury. And so y'all have to look at critique in a very different way. Yeah. Because it's not just critique in the moment. It's like this thing's going to be critiqued for the rest of my life.
So and I think that's what I do too. Like I overanalyze everything that I put out.
Right. So everything is curated, right? Every message is curated.
And I don't want to be like, I just want to be me. And like, it's so hard.
It is hard.
But it's like, I don't want to use that as like, oh, it's so hard, that's why I can't do it.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, especially given the whole nature of this conversation, I mean, you know, what does it mean to be a pastor? And you know, if I'm seeking to be faith-centered, Christ-centered in everything I do, then that's my leading edge, right? So I'm less concerned about, man, is what I'm about to say or do become fodder for the internet? If I'm more concerned with, is what I'm about to say or do going to be honoring to the cause of Christ? Yeah. If that's my concern, then probably what I'm about to say is going to be fine on the internet too. Right. So it's, you know, I think it's that constant battle, but it's also, you know, who am I at the core of who I am, which is a follower of Christ. So that means that's, if that's, and it also helps too when the critique comes and
it makes you a better person.
It makes you a better person, and it also says, you know, my worth is not defined by your critique. Yeah. You know, your critique can help me. It can help me grow. It can change you, but it doesn't change who I am. Yeah. Right? Because if I am a follower of Christ and Christ is at the heart of me, then I mean, I want to grow from people's critique. I don't want to blow it off and say, oh, you don't know. Yeah. Maybe they do know, and I can learn from that. But it's not my identity. My identity is not wrapped up in that.
So do you have like a lot of pastor friends that you get to like talk about what you go through as a pastor, or like do you like not? Like you talk to your best friends maybe, but like do you talk to other pastors that are in similar roles as you? About like the problems that you do have?
Oh, sure. And, I mean, some just kind of here and there when I meet with different pastors, but personally I have kind of one main group of guys that I graduated seminary with, and we've met every year for, I guess, 2006, whatever that makes this, 19 years. This will be 19 years.
Yeah.
And it's accountability, and it's talking about ministry and talking about life, talking about family. And so that kind of becomes that safe space. My heart breaks when you talk about burnout. Guys burn out because they don't have people. They don't have guys. They don't have other people in their lives to talk about that. Yeah. So, I go meet with these guys for a week. We go somewhere fun. We do all the fun things. We play hard. We do this. And kind of unpack all that stuff and unload it and come back and
feel refreshed a little bit.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
It also, like I said, it just lets you let it go.
Yeah, I have a core group of friends, like when I was explaining to you that I do care about what I put on social media, because I do eventually want to be either a content creator or create content for others that enjoy it. Like when I do get with my group of friends, like I'm just free. So I think that's important also, to just have a group of people, like-minded people, that want to also do great things, but also just be free. And just
it's such a cliche word, but they're my safe space. They're my place where I can go and just kind of cut loose, be me, be whatever.
Yeah, be mad.
And I don't have to worry about people like
recording you like I am with 3 different angles. But okay, so my next question would be, why do you think tithing is important?
That is an awesome question.
Okay.
And one that I would not expect to come up, because most people, when we talk about church and faith and life and all these things, tithing is not one that, especially young people are thinking about. And yet, I think it's at kind of the core of the Christian life. And it's, so for me, it is a spiritual discipline just like prayer and Bible reading, and anything else in the Christian life. Like tithing is just a spiritual discipline, and so it's something that I think we're called to do.
Because it's His anyway.
Okay, exactly right. It's funny because I talk to people and they're like, "Does God really want 10%?" And so I'll kind of ask them, okay, James 1:17, do you believe that every good and perfect gift comes down from the Father above? And they're like, yes. Yeah. I'm like, so you believe that God gives us everything? I'm like, yes. So it's His gift to give, right? Yes. So it all belongs to Him? Yes. So think about it like this. He's letting you keep 90% of it.
That's a lot.
Right?
A lot of percent.
Yeah. And yet we're
arguing.
arguing.
Business contract that we signed.
right. I mean. And yet we're arguing about this 10%. And so then people go, 10%, that was Old Testament. The interesting thing about the New Testament is, I think Jesus makes it even harder in the New Testament, right? I mean, He takes the Sermon on the Mount was not to soften the blow of the 10 Commandments. It makes it harder, right? I mean, not just don't kill someone, don't even think about killing someone, right? And so then we talk about generosity and what generous living looks like. And so if the Old Testament standard was 10%, I think Jesus would have been like, really? That's it? Yeah. That's all you're going to do? But it's a huge challenge. I mean, in the church, I think the last survey I saw said the average person in Western Christianity, so that's like America and some of Europe, the average person gives 1.2%. And so it makes you think, okay, so we're always like praying, God, would you provide? God, would you do this? Right. And I love that prayer, right? I ask God to provide all the time. And yet our response to that is sometimes so little. Like when God does provide, we're like, thanks. Yeah. Right? I got mine.
You don't even like praise Him like when you get it. You just be like, all right, I got it. Thank God I prayed for this, and like I'm deserving of this. Like
right. And one of the ways that we praise Him would be to give back, right? And say, okay, God, man, you gave me, this is amazing. Here, do this, have this. But we're not geared that way. And again, part of it is just kind of how and that's why with our kids, they say you shouldn't talk to your kids about money, or about things like that. I mean, we kind of live our finances out in front of our kids. It's easy when you don't have a lot, but they know everything. And so when from the very beginning, they've always known, kids, 10%, here it is. This is what 10% of our living looks like going to the church.
Yeah.
So they've seen that. And so, I think that they understand that expectation growing up.
Okay, so I interrupt this episode to let you guys know that this podcast is totally sponsored by me right now, and I would love to get some sponsorships in any way, shape, or form. Shoot me a DM. I'll put my email below. Shoot me an email. I want the company to truly align with what I'm trying to do, which is give students the opportunity to see the world and also, want to give back to the community that they come from. Being a business owner isn't easy, and I'm seeing that just through the content creation piece, but also behind the scenes of taxes and, aligning the right paperwork with the right people. And, I don't want to get too politicky with this podcast. I don't even do that with myself. I don't even talk politics, because I feel like, why? But I would love sponsorships for this podcast. So if you know of anyone, or if you would like to sponsor this podcast, it would be greatly appreciated. So let's get back to the episode. You make a valid point when you said a lot of kids don't talk about tithing when they talk about church. They're in college, they're in high school, they're still trying to figure out their lives. But I learned tithing from my grandmother, and I only started tithing this year. I mean, I would previous years, when I felt I had $10,
Right.
I can finally give this.
Right.
But even when I used to get, $1,000 every month, I wouldn't tithe. But now, I'm getting less than that a week, and it's just I want to give that. I feel like I'm called to do that because he's gonna give it. I'm gonna figure it out one, and he's gonna give it back to me
Right.
tenfold or however many fold. So I just feel like it's important for young kids my age to either figure out how to tithe, or okay. I guess my next question would be, what is if I can't tithe? Say I'm a person that doesn't have a job, or I'm in college and I'm struggling to figure out struggling to figure out my next meal. What would ways that could replace my tithing, monetary?
Sure. I mean, I think a lot of times we talk about tithing as, time, talent, and resources.
Yeah.
That we're called to give equally of all those. And so my pushback when someone says I can't tithe is to say, if you have $1, you can tithe.
Yeah.
Because you can give, so we'll just say 10% to make it easy, but you can give a dime of that.
Yeah.
Now, it feels like a lot when you only have $1. But, and I've told my kids this too, is that, and I've told everyone because tithing is a big question that a lot of people have. Oh my gosh, you all expect this? I say, I don't expect anything.
Right.
The Lord does. But
and it's proven. It's in the Bible.
It's in the scripture, right? If you can tithe when you have $1, you can tithe when you have $100. And when you have $100, you can tithe when you have $1,000. It is not about a number. It's about a heart that says, I'm committed to doing this. And so if I have $1, I'll tithe off the dollar the same way I'll tithe off $100,000, right? And if you start at your age, you'll do it your whole life.
Yeah.
We tend to say things I hear it all the time. Well, when I get a certain
Tax
comfort
bracket,
or tax bracket or whatever, then we'll tithe. The reality is it gets harder as you get more, right? I mean, if you just all of a sudden, get a job tomorrow making $100,000 and, you're going to find a place for all $100,000. And if you don't
I'm realizing that.
Right. And if you don't start with say, okay, 10% is the church, done, period, end of story. I got 90 to work with. If you start at 100 and then try and back it off, it's hard, man.
Yeah.
I mean, money finds a way to get, they always say you find enough things to spend your money on.
And I find that true, being in college is I can go a week with just $50.
Right.
And then when I get, say, $800 from doing something, all that 800 is build something to do.
Right.
I need to go get either
I know,
this,
something
this.
comes up.
and I just have to have it. Like
Yeah.
I have to go get it.
Exactly. You know, and you talked about, I think one of the misconceptions or teachings with tithing is, this idea that if I give X amount to the Lord, then He's going to repay it. And so when I give 100, I'm going to get 1,000 back or whatever. And I mean, that is just simply not biblical at all, especially if we look at, it's working the other directions. God's already giving you everything,
Right.
and you're just giving back. But then you're giving as a way of saying thanks, but also a way of obedience and spiritual discipline. And I look at my wife's life, like our marriage, we've never had a lot, but we've never not had enough.
Right.
And, I mean, we see God's hand of provision at every single turn. I mean, something goes out, something doesn't happen. We look at our bank account, and we're going, oh, this is awesome. Yeah. How are we going to do this? And God provides. And I always say He's never made me a millionaire because He knows I'd be a terrible millionaire, right? I'd be like, woo,
Just
we're buying boats, we're buying, so He knows better than that. But I mean, He's always provided.
Yeah.
And so, I just feel like this whole tithing thing. And so one of the questions people also ask is, how do I start, right? If I'm down the road already making all this money, how do I start? And I always just say, it's not about, like if you were to say, I want to start going to the gym, right?
Which I've said many times.
I used to say it now, I just don't even bother. If you were to say, I want to go start going to the gym, you wouldn't say, okay, I'm going to read a book on how to go to the gym. I'm going to watch a video on how to go to the gym. And I'm going to get a coach to tell me how to go to the gym. You just start going to the gym, right? You just go. And it's brutal and it's hard. And then you just keep doing that every day for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then it's a habit, and then you keep doing it. And tithing's the same way. You don't, you pray about it, but you don't, okay, God, show me when to do it. I'm just going to wait for you to show me.
Yeah.
You just start. You just do it. You give.
Just start.
And, if it's hard, then you give 2%. And the next year you give 3%. The next year you give 4%. You just kind of...
build up to that.
Yeah, you build up to it. But I had a couple, a family in the church I came from in Texas, and they did that. They were very wealthy. And then they started coming to church and felt convicted to give. But, giving 10% for them was going to be a lot.
A lot.
So they said, we'll start at 3%.
Yeah.
And then every year we'll add and by the third year, they said, this is ridiculous. And they just gave 10%. Because they were like, what are we doing?
Right.
If God says do this, we're going to do this. And so it was cool to watch, just people grow in that. And it's like I said, it's a discipline. I can't point to any place in my life to say where, God has paid me back tenfold for all the money I've given Him.
But not even that, He's giving you so much health. He's giving you maybe 20% in other areas, not just money.
Yeah, it's His provision is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I have no reason to think that it's anything other than, listen, we've been obedient and He provides. We've been obedient and He provides. It's a beauty.
So be obedient.
Yeah.
Pay your tithes. All right. So my next question would be, what is it like being a father? Because I obviously want to be a father one day. But you're a father to 3 people, and one of them is my best friend. So what is it like being a dad?
Man, it is the greatest thing ever. Yeah. I'm telling you, it is hard. It's a challenge, and it's a challenge because you can have 3 kids, like we have 3. You have 3 kids born under the same roof, same mom and dad, same structure across the boards,
and they're all different.
And they are all so different. All of them, and they are all so different. And you just think, well, and so now it's not about being a dad like I thought it was going to be. It's about, okay, I got to manage one this way, and manage one this way, and manage one this way, and yet try to be fair across the boards. But I think I even told my oldest is a daughter, and I think I told her one time, it ain't going to be fair, right? Because you're my daughter, and Will, my middle, is a guy, and so I'm going to treat him different than you. Yeah. Sorry. It's just
cry about it.
So but oh my gosh, it's so amazing, and it's amazing watching these little, these kids grow up and start to be adults.
Little humans.
Little humans, and they're growing up to be adults now, and finding their place in the world, and kind of trying to figure out, they're all, or two of them are kind of in your spot. Like,
Yeah.
what am I going to be? What am I going to do?
Right.
And, we're starting to move from parent to peer and friend, where they still want me to parent in some ways. Yeah. But, really we all become friends and watching them grow into these adult humans.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's
and I love that. I've watched you throughout my years of just being a great dad. So I just want to say, give you your flowers while you're here.
Thanks.
Because people don't get them when they're alive. They get praised when they're dead.
Right. Well, thanks.
That's good. All right. What is one thing that'll make you laugh right now? Tell me a joke.
I'm terrible at jokes. No, everyone always says tell a joke. I don't know. I don't ever know a joke. What makes me laugh right now is I'm 53.
You're getting up there.
I'm getting up there. And what makes me laugh is myself and watching myself almost become a caricature of myself. Yeah. Right? I'm becoming, and whether it's becoming my parents, my dad or whatever, but you think you're the cool dad or you think you're the cool husband or whatever, and then you find yourself in the front yard get off my yard, kids, and you're like, oh no. Yeah. I'm becoming that guy. Mm-hmm. So I think, as you get older, realizing I'm not that, whatever that was, I'm not that anymore, and I'm a middle-aged dude, and it just cracks me up.
Well, you ain't too old.
My body feels it every day.
All right. So my last two questions would be, what prayer do you have for Pascagoula? And what do you see Pascagoula in the next 10 years when, all the things that are going on in the world won't be going on? Then what are your hopes for Pascagoula to be in 10 years? Because are you planning to be here in 10 years?
I do.
Okay.
So, Pascagoula is in a very interesting place. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's business-wise, it's growing. Yeah. People-wise, I think it's maybe growing a little bit. But I mean, just the economic business is growing and downtown's growing, and there's so many cool things going on in our town. And it feels like there's revitalization. It feels like things are coming on. And my hope for Pascagoula is that people would allow that to happen. Yeah. We kind of go
not be stuck in their ways.
Right. I mean, we go back to the social media thing. And it's funny. We could post that, hey, we're getting this restaurant, and you'll have a handful of people that are like, yeah, we're getting that restaurant. Right. And then 100 people go, we don't need this. Who approved that? And I get frustrated. I get why people are. I get the frustrations that people can have with government or politics and all those things. Right. But it's we've lost the ability to just rejoice. We've lost the ability, the capacity to just say, well, that's cool. Yeah. We've lost the ability to say, I'm going to trust that
somebody knows what they're doing.
Someone knows what they're doing, right? And I think that the frustration becomes, because of social media, we feel like we are either experts on everything, which we're not, or we feel like we have to know everything. Okay. Whereas 20 years ago, you'd read about it in the newspaper 2 weeks after the decision was made. Right. And now the decision comes out. I go, and so we got all these. And, my prayer for Pascagoula is that it continues to grow and to prosper and to do those things, and that it grows in the right ways, but it also grows with people being excited about what's going on, and, that whatever levels or feelings of distrust that we would learn to trust one another, and work together cordially and all those things, and kind of on maybe a bigger picture on the church side of it. I feel like this town is way more siloed in terms of the churches. Yeah. And I don't know if that's because we're a small town. Yeah. And I often feel like if such and such pastor saw someone at one of our events, it would be like, what you doing? You stealing my people? What you doing there? Yeah. So I don't know if that's part of it. I mean, I rejoice. People come to me sometimes and they're like, man, we just feel like we're going to go to this other church. And that's why I love to know those pastors. I'm like, yes, Michael's great. Jeff's wonderful. You should go down there. And I don't feel like we have that a lot. I don't think there's a lot of collegiality among the churches, and that makes me sad. I would love to see something change there.
Okay. And then my last question. If you could share one piece of advice, of encouragement with anyone listening, especially those wrestling with faith or feeling far from God right now, what would it be?
I would say, well, I know it sounds trite to say that Christ is enough, but Christ is enough. I think there's such a need, or such a hole in so many people's hearts right now.
Yeah.
And they don't know where what to fill that with. And, because they've never been in church, or because they've been hurt by the church, because they've seen hypocrisy in the church, whatever it is, that Christ is enough, and that, he wants them to be a part of their life. And, I often wonder, how do people grieve? How do people go through difficult times without him? That he is enough. He is the one that wants to be a part of their life and restoration and things like that. And I just see a whole generation of young people who would even almost say, I'm missing something, but I don't know what I'm missing, right? There's this angst, this feeling like, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I want. And I would say that, Christ is the answer. He really is. Now, it's, as I always say, things aren't as good as they always seem, and they're not as bad as they always seem, right? The picture we try and paint of Christ over here that's like perfect and your life is great, you'll never have any problems. That's not right. But this picture over here that, life is so awful and, you don't need him.
There's always like a common ground.
Right. And that's the beauty, is that Christ meets us in the midst of our pain, or in the midst of our joy, or in the midst of where we are. He's always coming to us, right? We don't have to go find him. I have one of my best mentors in this church. He comes, we meet together every week, pray together. He has me reading books. And he's kind of famous how he always says, God works while we work. And I love that phrase, because I think sometimes we're in a tough spot and we'll say, well, God, where are you at? I'm just waiting for you to write it in the sky and then I'll do it. I'm just, or people say, well, I guess, it would take God having to call me and, to do this. And, God works while we work. Like, God is at work. He is doing amazing things. And yet, our call is still to go out and seek him and to do the things that he calls us to do, and get out in the community and do those things. And you know what? He'll meet us there. He's going to meet us at all those places. And so don't just sit around and say, well, I guess if he's real, he'll come to me.
And do you believe in, like, I was talking to one of my friends the other day, it's what you put out in the atmosphere. Like, when you say, like, oh, I'm doing bad, or I'm doing, like, I can never have this, like, you're putting that out there, but you're not, like, putting, like, positive affirmations out there where it's like, oh, I'm going to have that if I don't have it right now.
Well, yeah, and I think even more than that, because you don't want to be like, I think when we get into that mindset, we're saying, I'm going to say this, I'm going to speak it into existence, or I'm going to do these things. Whereas what we really should be saying is,
God's going to help me do this.
God's going to do that, right? God, I'm going to claim all these promises in Scripture, right? Whatever they be.
Yeah.
And we were talking about in Sunday school today, that God would give us the desires of our hearts. That's a beautiful thing.
It's huge.
But it's also kind of predicated on delighting in him and trusting in him and committing to him and waiting on him. And it says when you do all four of those, then he'll give you the desires of your heart, right? So, those things that I want, desire, and hope for, I want to focus on those and pursue those things as I desire in him, trust in him, commit to him, and wait for him. He'll do those things. Because he's either those are going to be the desires of my heart that are of his heart too, or he's going to get rid of them because they're not his desires anyway. Right?
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that concludes the podcast / interview. I thank you for sitting with me. I really hope to sit back with you, and from 10 years from now, whether that I be in another country, whether I be very successful, or whether I be at home still happy, because at the end of the day, I'm going to be centering my faith with God,
right?
And I'm going to be pursuing things that I genuinely love and sitting with people that I feel like mean something to me.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy that you're the first. You are someone that I feel like a lot of people look up to. And I don't know if you hear that a lot, that they're thankful for you, but they also don't share that what you do matters. And yeah, you ain't gonna get me crying.
Well, thanks, and I think this is exciting, man. I love that you're doing this.
Yeah.
I love that to see, you and having you watch you grow up and see not just this passion to, podcast and do those things,
Yeah.
but for it to have meaning and
It's
depth of
deeper.
meaning, and it's deeper. And
I want to
it's
motivate
exciting.
somebody
Right.
that's just watching this and just like,
Which has always been that's always been your thing, right?
yeah,
You
like,
love people.
I love
That's
people.
cool.
And people hate that I love people. I don't even think I would be able to, I want to find someone obviously, but it's like the person that I do find, they're going to have to, I do this thing where I like think before I speak. They're going to have to understand that I love people and I'm never going to stop loving people.
Yeah.
And if you can't love people with me, you can't be with me.
That's right.
All right. So that concludes this. You want to end it with a prayer?
Yeah, I will.
You're going to say it.
God, what an amazing God you are. And I'm so thankful for Markel and all that you've done in his life. You have grown him into such an amazing man of faith and a man of character and integrity and humility and joy. And that's a beautiful thing. And I pray that this time that we've had together, Lord, whoever would hear it, whoever might come across it, they'd be encouraged, that you would use it to encourage maybe someone who's really wrestling with the things of faith, and that they might know that you're enough, and we can rejoice in that. Amen.
Amen. Hey, I got my first one done.
That's awesome, buddy.
All right. This is great. Want a hug?
Love you.
I love you too. Thank you. Well, that concludes the episode of Sit Downs with Markel Williams featuring Matthew Mitchell. I truly am so thankful for Matt. He has taught me how to truly lead with purpose, but also it's okay to still know who you are when you're leading. Like, don't forget who you are when leading, because yes, you can lead people to great heights, but you have to also be connected with yourself, because once you lose the connection with yourself, it's kind of like, is it authentic? Is it genuine? So I really am thankful for you, Matt. I know you're probably watching to the end, so I love you and I thank you. But great conversation. I can't wait to get back and tell you all of the stories about abroad. And I hope if you guys are watching this episode and you didn't get anything out of it, I truly hope you got a key message that kept replaying through my head when I was editing this podcast. He said something along the lines of your critique, my worth is not your critique or their critique. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, never feel as though you have to take what someone says about you and now that is who you are and that's what you're worth. Like, no. That's not being allowed anymore if you have been doing that, because I have been doing that. I'm going to be honest. I have always listened to what people say about me and use that as let me dull my light down. Let me change how I act around, so they don't feel, it's over, So I am very thankful that you decided to watch this podcast and Matt decided to sit down with me, and I hope you come back for the next one. Bye.